Well, today I'm going to show you how to make a drone track for free, and you can use this as backing for a band or as something that just frees up some of your synthesizer if you're using a synth to create drones, and yeah, it's quite good. So what we're going to be using is this software from Audacity, and you need to go to www.audacityteam.org to download it, and it's available for all sorts of PCs, including Apple Mac and including Linux, and it's very full featured and you'll have a blast using it. You can play with it for hours, but I'm going to show you how to do this one particular thing, and it won't cost you a penny. So if you've got the software, you can have a bit of a play along. So this is what Audacity looks like when you open it. Now, it's a track based editor, a bit like a mixing desk, but it can do an awful lot more. So I'm going to generate a 3-minute long drone. So the first thing we need to do is add some tracks. Now you can have stereo and you can have mono, but for drones I do recommend mono, especially for the tones. So drones are usually made of 3 or more tones. They can be sine or square wave. Sine wave is preferred because it makes a more mellow sound. So if we click on the tracks menu, add new, and we want audio track. We want to add, I'm going to have 4 sine waves running on this, so I'm going to add 4 audio tracks. And the first 3 sine waves, I'm going to use a little recipe that I've used before and I know actually works. So if we go up here where it's generate, and this lets you generate all sorts of things, including DTMF, electronic noise, general just noise, silence, because you can put a section of silence in the middle of a track if you wish, and tones. And there's also an analog oscillator, but we're not going to use that because it doesn't work so well for drones. It works very well for all sorts of other things. So first thing to do is to make sure that this cursor here, as you can see, it runs along, and this is how you select things. Now when you do generate, it will only fill up what's in the selection, unless of course nothing is selected. So the easiest way to do that is to go back to the front here, and you can see that this is the track that's selected because it's gone dark grey. So we'll go into generate, tone, and there's lots of different tones you can create. You can create sine, squares, sawtooth and anti-alias square, but we want the sine wave. And the first one I'm going to create is at 24 Hertz exactly, and the duration we want is basically 3 minutes. So if we click on here and adjust that to 3 minutes using the keyboard, we'll accept that, and it'll go away and generate our wonderful little tone. And this isn't very exciting. You may just be able to hear that. It's very quiet because it's a very low tone. When it gets exciting is when you start to mix other tones that are slightly different with it. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to click on the next track underneath, and remember, insert only works from the cursor onwards, so I'm going to have to return that to the front of the track. I'm going to go back, I'm going to generate tone again. This time I'm going to make it hugely different. It's going to be 24.09 Hertz. Tiny little difference, and you'll see it actually does remember your settings. And I've only made it 0.5 amplitude for all these because otherwise you're going to blow your eardrums out. Click OK, and we've now got 2 tracks. And you might think, well, you're not going to hear much difference, but what you get is a slowly oscillating background hum. That's absolutely excellent as the start of a drone. Just let me take my mic off for a minute, and you might hear some clicks and bangs, and I'll hold it right next to the speaker so you might be able to hear this. Now, to be absolutely honest, a lot of people would call that a day. It is actually quite good, isn't it? But we're not going to call it a day. Let's go to the next track down, and we're going to generate tones again. This time it's going to be a bit higher. Instead of 24.09, it's going to be 24.18. Now you're definitely going to be able to hear it. What you're hearing is the waves reinforcing each other, but because there's only a slight difference between them, then it takes quite a while for them to all add up. So you get this oscillating drone. It's coming in, I guess, about every 4 or 5 seconds. And that was my original recipe, but now I'm going to try something new. I'm going to add in another drone. This one is going to be a lower frequency drone, not higher, and you wouldn't even be able to hear this one at all until it reinforces the other waves. So we'll select the bottom track, we'll go to the front, and I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen here because I haven't actually done this, but I've just thought of it. So we're going to go all the way down to 20 Hertz, but we don't want, oops, not 10, 20 Hertz, and we don't want a round number, so I'm going to put in 20.08, and we'll see what that's like. You can always change these, it's very easy. Oh, now listen to what we've got. Put you next to the speaker again. And what we've got is a very interesting sound. And we can save these sounds out as a WAV file. We can save them out as literally practically anything we want. We can save them as MP3 if we want. Now, I'm greedy, and this isn't enough for me, so I'm going to add in something else. Early on, I went to this site, it's called freesfx.co.uk, and it's got free sound effects, very good. And I decided that I wanted something in the background that sounded a bit odd. So here I've got air traffic control, two-way radio communication. If I turn my drone off for a minute, and I'll let you hear what that sounds like. Actually, that's not the one that I picked. Excuse me. That wasn't the one that I picked. It was this one, control tower, radar, room, ambience with voices and computer. The other one, the voices are too obvious and I didn't want that. Yes. Now you might think that's going to be no use, but once again, our friend here, Audacity, can help us out. And if I drop this down, get rid of the one I was playing with before, and I'm going to just take that air traffic control, I'm going to drag and drop it onto Audacity. It will load it as a brand new stereo track because it's a stereo sample. And the thing is that there's a lot of noise in this. Hang on. One of the other things you can do is you can make a track solo or mute it entirely. I'm going to make this one solo, which means the other tracks won't play. And you can hear all this hissy noise in the background, and I don't like that. Now Audacity has a means to remove this noise, if you can find a section of it that is just noise. So let's see if we can find a section that hasn't got too much going on. Somewhere like here, for example. What's that like? Yeah, if I take that bit there. Now the way noise reduction works is that you have to select a short bit of audio, and it does a frequency profile on it and then removes those frequencies from your track, and it's often very effective. So let's see what we can do with this. So here we go, noise removal. Step 1, select a few seconds of just noise. Done that. So if I click get noise profile, that's done. Now what I want to do is come down here and I want to select the whole of that bottom track just by clicking and dragging. Then go back to noise profile again, noise removal rather, and it will remove that noise. Now let's listen to it. And as if by magic, we just have the voices, which is exactly what I want. There's none of that nasty background hissing. We've got voices, we've got some clicks. We could even remove the clicks if we wanted to, because Audacity has a click removal tool. But I'm not going to do that. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to add some echo effect. And I had to play around with this earlier, as you probably saw from that one that I closed, just so that I didn't take too long showing you what to do. So if I select the whole of that track again, which I've just done, go back into effects, and we've got echo. And I've found that a decay factor of 0.5, actually I'm going to increase that, I'm going to make it maybe 0.53. And the delay time of 0.4 seconds between the echoes works. Now the decay factor is how fast they actually drop away, and counterintuitively the higher the number, the slower they drop away. So if you want something with hardly any echo, put it down to 0.3 or 0.4. If you want something with a lot of echoes, then take it above 0.5. Okay, so you can preview, and once you're satisfied with it and you've played around with the numbers, hit OK and it'll go and do it. So I'm going to click on solo again to unmute everything else, Now let's have a listen at what this is like. So, click on the button to stop that. Now, let's go and do something else now. We want it to fade in and fade out gradually, and Audacity's fine with that. And if you look, there's a time bar along the top here which is in seconds, and I want it to fade in over about 5 seconds. So I'm going to click down there, just select the first 5 seconds or so, and actually I'm not. I'm going to do that for these 4 tracks here. I'm going to select the first 5 seconds of the first track, go up to Effect and hit Fade In. Effect, Fade In. Effect, Fade In. And then for that last one, which made such a big difference, I'm going to fade it in over a much longer time period. And I'm going to fade this in over a short time period. And then what we've got is an envelope. We can actually put an envelope on our sounds to make them louder or not so loud. And I'm going to apply that in a minute, but before I do it, I'm going to fade these out. I'm going to fade these out in the opposite order. This one is going to fade out quite quickly. So if we go Effect, Fade Out. Effect, Fade Out. And I'm going to make these fade out over a longer period of time. And this one's already got a fade, but I want it to fade out a bit faster than that, so sorry, a bit slower than that, so I'm going to do that as well. Right, so here we go. We can see what the end looks like. If we click up here, look at a cursor. And that's our end. Now the other thing you might notice is that our air traffic control sounds are a bit loud really. So let's take the volume down. And let's try that again. I just want to be a background sound really. I can go down further than that as well. And I think this drone here could do a dropping down in volume, so I'm going to do that. And as you alter these volumes, you'll find the whole character of the drone changes. going a bit too far with some of these. There's kind of a threshold with this first drone as to where it works, this first tone here. Okay, so that's quite good. Let's go back to the beginning, and I want to do something with these voices because I don't want them to come in while the drone is coming in. There's a number of things I could do. I could delete the front and put a silence in, so I could just generate silence over the top. In fact, I'm going to do that for the first part of it here. So I've selected that area, generate silence, and we've got silence. And now what I want to do is fade it in from there to there. Fade in, and there we go. So if I now play that, of course we can put as much of these extra samples on here as we like. I think you can get something like 20 tracks on here before you have to mix them down, and after you've mixed them down you can just put a new track. You can just import that again and put a new track alongside it and carry on mixing, but obviously you'd lose the ability to edit these individual waveforms. Now I was talking about envelopes, and what I want to do is I want to change the way this drone here works. So I'm going to select this top here, and I'm going to click here, which is the envelope tool, and you can see that gives us these two lines, top and bottom. And what I'm going to do is you click to insert a point. So as you can see, I've inserted a point there, and then you can drag these points around to change the envelope. And I want to create a couple of places where it gets quieter. And maybe a place where it gets louder. So I might make it very quiet at one point, and increase it so it's very loud. And drop it away slowly. And so on. And now I'm quite happy with this. I'm going to use it in a little project. So I want to save it. So I'll just stop that. And I'm going to save it as an MP3, I think. So here we have export audio. Now you can either export a selection, a little piece that you selected, or the whole thing. Well, I want to export the whole thing. I'm going to put it on my desktop. I'm going to call it Drone 2A, and as you can see it's already selected as MP3. You can have lots of other different formats, but I want MP3. And you hit save and it will come up with a warning, which you can make disappear if you want to, which says our tracks will be mixed down to 2 stereo channels in the exported file. And I should mention that you can, if you wish to, change which channels, left or right, that these drone tones appear on by using the L and R sliders, but I want it mono. That usually works best. You get some really weird stereo effects if you do it another way though. So here we go, and it's picked up all the stuff from the radar room, because that was the only one that had any tags on. So we want to clear those, and I'm just going to put Arduino Tronic at the top. That will do. Hit OK and it'll export it. Now if you wanted to, you could save this project and then you could come back to it and re-edit it. And the way you do that is from the file menu, you hit save project, but the important thing is you mustn't move the positions on your disk drive where any files like the airport file is that you've actually used. You have to leave those where they are, otherwise when it opens up the project manager can't find it and it complains like crazy. But I don't want to save this, I'm perfectly happy with it, so I'm going to close that. So I'm saying save change, no, so I don't want to save it. As you can see, we now have a new file here. We have drone2a.mp3. If I click on that, my MP3 player opens up, and lo and behold, it plays it. Or would if I had the volume turned up. And that's about it. And you can put as many layers of sound over the top of this as you like. I hope you've enjoyed this, and you're going to find it useful. And if you do, or you have, then please like, share and subscribe. And hey, guess what? I'm probably going to do some more on Audacity and generating electronic music with a free synthesizer. Thank you very much.
Well, you could subscribe to Arduino Tronic, or just go jump in a lake.